1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another LoLa Podcast. Today, we are joined by James Collinson. He is a founder and managing director of Design Spec Limited. It's a fast-growing architecture and planning business working to become the UK's first nationwide architecture franchise. Now, he's building a multidisciplinary architecture group. He's acquiring professional property service businesses, meaning that he's expanding into new ventures like Design Spec Connect, which connects homeowners directly with contractors, and many more. I'm sure you know how far and wide property services go. So this is going to be a sharp conversation about scaling services, businesses, acquisitions, and building serious companies in the property space. And all that and more to come. James, how are you today?
Very well, Roger. Thank you very much for that lengthy intro. I do appreciate that.
I did think it was going to be shorter than that, but there's so much to say. I mean, just from the few discussions we've had in preparation for this podcast, you've given me loads of things to think about still, and we've still not gone into the proper podcast. So just before we get ahead of ourselves, let's put a structure in place. Let's follow the whole past, present, and future approach that we've been taking, and just give us a bit of an idea of who you are. Where did you start? Why are you in this space in the first place?
Cool. Thank you, Roger. Well, it starts with probably genuinely goes back to where I grew up, which was Southern Ireland. It's a bit of a rough patch of the planet. Beautiful though it is, it's pretty rough. But I started there. I was actually kitchen fitting from the age of 12 till I was about 17. And I don't think there's any secret to it. The Irish economy isn't the strongest. So I was on €1.10 an hour, 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, for €1.10 an hour, which is about 90p or whatever it is. So yeah, it was a bit of a tough one to swallow, even though I was only young. It was the goal was always to leave, and unfortunately for Ireland, a lot of young people have to leave. So it started there, came to the UK, and my grandfather had a small design practice in Essex, which basically just did signage. Every now and then he would work on a rear extension if he was asked to, but the same queries would constantly come up. So while I was there on work experience, I heard things like, what's the hourly rate? Why is there a percentage of build costs that contractors look at, and quantity surveyors and structural engineers, and they're all taking a percentage of the scale of the project. So I took a lot of that information down. At the time as well, I was going to college. I got kicked out of there within about 3 weeks. So I say I was going to college. I showed up a few times, got kicked out of there, sat at the dining table at my mother's home, and basically started to write down on a piece of paper a utopian design solution, not really knowing what I was wrapping myself into. So I put things like, could we be fixed fee? Could we make it with unlimited designs? Could we have a one-to-one project manager? And I wrote these things down on a piece of paper. Then naturally, my mother catches me and says, you're not going to sit here working on that all day. You're going to go get a real job. And with that, I effectively had to start putting this together rapidly, like speed of light. So I used the rest of the afternoon to call local businesses and just ask for a free desk was the truth. So did that. One chap, bless him, after about 7 or 8 calls in, which wasn't many at all with hindsight, he said, just for having the cojones for asking, you can have a free desk for as long as you like. So Design Spec was born out of that. And yeah, from there, homeowners really took to it. Fixed fee architecture took off like crazy. We were growing at 300-400% per annum. We had people copying our website. We had people threatening us with foreclosures. We had all of the stuff that, again, with hindsight, was incredibly positive, and it really shook the marketplace up. Fast forward to today, fixed fee architecture has become a bit of a norm, which I'm incredibly proud of. I think it always should have been that way. And we've expanded into a few different companies. So now we've got a quantity surveying arm to our business, which is QSpec. We've got Design Spec Connect, which connects homeowners to contractors, free of charge for homeowner as well, because I didn't agree with architects charging for the tender process. So we've managed to get that under our belt, and we've just acquired our first, and we've got another one on the table for structural engineering companies. So we've got the full conveyor belt, if you like, from first inquiry right through to construction, and we've managed to build a journey that homeowners can go on safely and at a fixed cost.
Very, very interesting. So in terms of the way you've put things together, you just saw an opportunity in the way you thought things should be, and you just went for it. And it does sound from what you were saying that you obviously being the big driver behind this this whole business, but also it sounds like you've disrupted the existing industry. You've pushed into a space where no one else was stepping into, even though the industry was already booming. You just thought that is the way it should be. You went ahead with it, and people started copying you. I mean, how big is that?
Yeah, we got with hindsight, I'll be completely honest with you, a lot of it comes down to probably just luck at the time. Like, I didn't realize how badly it was needed, and I didn't realize how much of an opportunity maybe that was sitting there. But it was nice. Over the years, we've had different recognitions. So we've had Disruptor of the Year nominations with Santander's backing. I got through to the final, actually. We came down to the final 2, I believe, for the Barclays Entrepreneur of the Year in 2022. So that was huge. Young entrepreneur. I can't claim the adult title. So yeah, got down to the final 2 or 3 there. That was a crazy, wild experience, but it's all really set us up for the next chapter, if I'm completely honest with you. I think that what I've managed to learn up to this point is that there's so many cogs to business, right? You've got, you first of all have to learn sales very, very quickly. Then you learn a bit of marketing. You learn that operations is separate from the 2 of those, and you operate under strict timelines and procedures. And there's a lot of rules now that we have in place in order to measure growth and to measure this business. Whereas, as I say, early days, I got a little bit, I don't like using the word luck, because I think some people, the harder they work, the luckier they get. But we did get lucky in the sense of we were right place, right time, and we really pushed when we needed to push. And we've set ourselves up quite nicely now to kick on from there.
I do like separating the word luck with the word fortune. You can be fortunate and you can be lucky. The lucky is that you just got a break, but you were fortunate to be who you are in the position you were and making those deductions at the time. So you made it happen, but it was fortunate that it matched with what the industry needed at the time as well. So it all came together. What kind of support, if you don't mind me asking, did you receive from like organizations? You mentioned Eagle Labs. We had a bit of a discussion about this off camera as well. And Santander, they've got a lot of entrepreneurship competitions and awards that they're giving out. There is Innovate UK. I'm not sure how relevant that is in terms of your industry, but for your journey, what kind of support did you receive?
Yeah, do you know what? I'll be honest with you, over the years, not a lot at all. So we've never taken finance. We've never taken on debt. We've built the business purely in-house organically and just using the profits from the business, basically. Now, again, I don't want to now use the term unlucky, but we started just after the what was still the remnants of the 2008 crash. So banks were still finding their feet. A lot of people were finding their feet. And I came to the UK in 2010. So the UK economy was really struggling at that time. Again, as a kid, I didn't really understand that, but it was. So then we rode a bit of the wave coming out of that. 2015 to 2020 was pretty good. It was pretty stable as an economy. But then obviously we've had COVID. So we've seen many peaks and troughs already, and we're going through one right now with interest rates and everything else. It's still affecting families that are borrowing money. So, you know, our company, we've actually got to a point now, we've got quite a bit of stability. But to answer your question, what support and what networks were around us, I'm going to be honest, I would say all of it is down to mentors, other business owners, now friends, that I was able to steer the ship and to navigate a lot of this by bouncing off of people. I've never been afraid of picking up the phone and not asking. I don't really like that. I normally demand assistance. And I think in business, there's a lot to be said for that. If you really do kick the door down, the funny thing is, in most environments, it would be obviously received negatively by whoever's on the inside. In business, you kick down a business owner's door and you say, look, I need your help. And they say, absolutely, like, let's go do this. It's a different environment. So yeah, for me, I was fortunate, to use your term now, I like that. I was fortunate enough to have that from a young age. And I think part of growing up in Ireland, the culture difference is huge. It's very family orientated. It's open door policy. So I never understood that there was almost like a rudeness to asking the same question 5 times until they answered. So, and I do a college talk every year, and I use that as a bit of the antagonizer to get the room going, because I think there's a lot to be said for just continuously asking that question until someone answers, and they will answer. It's only when, not if.
So when you're on that speech, when you're on stage and you're actually doing that speech, do you have a specific answer that you ask, and you actually wait for someone to stand up and say an answer?
Great question. I'll be honest, I use it the other way. So if I ever start losing the room, I'll normally use a phrase like I've got most of my success through being an expert harasser. To harass the other party into submission, and to make sure that if there's an answer that I need, you got to show up, you got to be there. Part of that same talk is that I encourage young people to, rather than just fill out a CV and apply for 1,000 jobs, find out the director, the owner's favorite drink, and show up at 5 a.m. with their favorite drink. I think there's a lot to be said for that tenacity and that hunger that you can prove rather than say. The world is full of talk. It's a very weak place now. And I think that for the people that really want to succeed and want to kick on, it's got a lot easier. To show up at 5 a.m. with a drink once upon a time was actually almost part of the quota. Everyone was hungry, everyone was pushing. We've got lazy. So yeah, for me now, to build a business and to take it to its next level and to buy more companies and to fold them into what we're doing with professional property services, I'm really enjoying those conversations, and I'm proving to other directors, like, I will be there as and when you need me. It could be 1 a.m, it could be 7 p.m, it doesn't matter when and what. If we're taking this business to the next level and we're putting the next 20 years into building this thing out, you're going to see the energy. One of my favorite quotes of all time is, your actions speak so loud I can't hear a word you're saying. And I live by that. I don't like talk. I think, being a diehard stoic, words are very cheap. Everyone can say that they work hard. It's just, you just got to show up. You just got to keep going. And again, in stoicism, it's all about what's said about you when the door is closed or when you're not in the room. So for me, I want people, there's certain words and traits that I want people to know me by, and I'll live and die by them traits.
And what are they? If you were to outline them now, what's your principles?
I've got a few absolute core ones. So honest. So there's no white lies from me. I don't surround myself with people that tell white lies. That's a big one. And reliability. I want people to know that I'm reliable. If they call me at 3 a.m, do I answer? Do I go and help them if they're broken down in Manchester? It doesn't matter where, when, what. I really want that to be on the old stone when I go. So yeah, they're probably two of the biggest. Again, growing up in Ireland, loyalty is huge. It's really the only trait that you can trade on. So yeah, loyalty is absolutely massive for me. So I will live and die by that sword.
Well, looking at what seems to have been successful or have really assisted your journey, because I would say that you have had an upwards trajectory, and it's very clear that you're now stepping to that next stage of the business. But what it seems like has worked well for you is, one, that you're driven as an individual, which is what most people will say you need to be an entrepreneur and starting a business and then running a business. You're self-motivated, but at the same time, it seems like you've recognized the structures within the business, the operation of having a repetitive strategy of how we do things. And the more you do them, the better you get at them. The more you refine them, the better they work. And the longer you do them for, the longer that upwards trajectory continues, becoming more and more organic. So you got those things in a very good balance, which means that for the last 10, 15 years, is that how long you'd say you've been in the industry? You've just constantly, year by year, gone in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. So this will be our 12th year now. And the good thing is, it feels like we're just getting started. And that's what really motivates me every single morning. In terms of some of the key takeaways, core principles, man, it drives me mad that companies don't stick to their own core principles. They'll hire against them, and they will, how do you motivate and train anyone or have good people around you if you haven't even set the stall out of, by the way, we don't lie to each other? It blows my mind. So I've always had, from the first ever business book I read, which was by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, everyone on their desk gets a little glass frog. So, that's the first business lesson I had. It's the first business lesson then that I give to the staff. And I feel that instantly you're setting that boundary of, okay, cool. When we take information, guess what? We use it forever. And that's just one mantra that's going out there. We have other ones, which is you never type the same email twice. If you're doing that, it should be a template. It should be a system, a process that you can pull on day and night. For new starters, they can log into that and pull that data and say, by the way, if you're going to send this particular email, there's a list of templates. So I learned, thankfully, early on studying. I'm addicted to studying business. I listen to hours of podcasts. I absolutely love it. I do free consulting for companies. I live and die by it. So to then package them up and find ways of packaging it to then distribute to teams of other people, I love it, man. And it also empowers people, right? So I want to just keep giving tools to my team. If that allows them to go on and achieve everything that they want in their life, then my story at the end is the one that I want. I want to just know that we gave as much as we did. I want the brand that we're trying to build, or multiple brands that we're trying to build, to get to this point of living way beyond me. And it's a bit like the Steve Jobs story. There was a point where he left Apple, it went down, he returned to Apple, but then built it for Tim Cook, not himself. And I think there's a hell of a lot to be said for that. I've always tried to build it so that, God forbid I fall down tomorrow, there's a realistic expectation that everything continues better because the foundations were so strong. And I'm not going to be the best in that position, right? So I'm still learning. I've got to keep learning. And there's every chance that at some point someone comes in and takes it way further than I ever could.
And that's a success. That's the goal.
That would be it, man. If I could set enough foundation there. We've got another saying for all of our staff, anyone that joins us, that well, there's two things. For the hiring process, we hire for personality and we train for skill. I think a lot of people get that wrong in business. They try to hire the most qualified or the most ready, per se. And I think it's completely wrong. 9 times out of 10, what you need is, if you've got a light-hearted, jovial office environment, you need to hire for that first, because they'll self-motivate, they'll self-promote, and they'll support each other. You only need one bad egg in that bunch, and you've put the whole company at risk. So, yeah, there's a hell of a lot to be said for that. And then once they are hired, very simple rule for us: the money's always on the table, or the role, because it's not all about money. The money or role are always on the table for our staff. It's up to them to pick it up. So, if you wanted to become director, no problem. I'll set the tone. If you can do that, pitch yourself. It would make no sense for me to stay in that position if you've pitched it and done better than me. If you're, theoretically, if I was listening to a couple of hours of podcasts a day and you're listening to 3 hours, and you've already put the extra time in, and you're now proving that you can put an extra hour in per day, and it's not all about the hard work, but I do believe in it. So, if you set that stall out, absolutely, you go for it. I'm not fit for purpose anymore. You've taken me over.
Success. And actually, you were talking about the trainings before, and the putting together the tools and packaging them in a way that people can pick them up and use them. And I was thinking that's the perfect time to mention your book. And here we are. Can you tell us a bit more about the book that you wrote?
Yeah. So it tied in more to the college talk. Someone after I've been in business about 6-7 years, they said to me, if you really want to know what you're doing, the best way of proving it is to teach it. So I did that. One of my other companies is a property portfolio company. So we buy distressed properties, we do them up, and we rent them out. It's a very straightforward buy-to-let model. But we buy the properties technically for free, which is one of the ebooks that I've got on there, which is basically, if you buy it at a low enough value, i.e. negotiated down, obviously, and it has enough upside at the end of refurbishment, you can refinance that property, leave 30% in it, and you've pulled 100% of your deposit money out. So you have no money tied into it. You take the mortgage, the rent's higher than the mortgage, and the maths does itself. So we just recycle the same amount of money into buying more properties. So yeah, I've got that one. And then we had, we've got different ones on there. From my perspective, it's very much, if I can teach it, then I really know it. And it gives me a bit of a stable place to come back to and to basically, if you like, have that live forever without me having to remember or preach it again. My team must be sick of me, Roger. I must say the same stuff 24/7. You can't miss it then. And if someone does forget about it, you're like, don't I say this 24/7? Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're going to say. Or download the ebook.
Download the audiobook and you'll remember. So that's where you are today then. You've gone through this journey and this is where you've reached. And now you're going down the route of acquisition. So what made that shift? What actually made you think, maybe it's time to, instead of trying to build things from scratch, find things that actually work and go and get ourselves into it? How does that work?
Frustration, man. Absolute pure and utter frustration at growth percentages. I was going through it all. So we brought in a financial director. I was paying, God, it kills me, but I think it was £1,400 a day. I know. So we had the financial director, or who was the financial director for All Saints, for French Connection. This is a serious player, been on the front of newspapers and everything, and got on unbelievably well with him, would absolutely work with him again in a heartbeat, loved him to bits. But basically what came out of it was I wanted to raise finance to really take the company to the next level. And having sat down and gone through those numbers, this FD turned around and said, "You'll be surprised, but I'm going to tell you not to borrow any money whatsoever. The company is very profitable and it's also growing at the right rate." By right rate, companies hit a certain point, and then 7 to 9% growth is what's expected within any given sector. So apparently we were bang on track. It's exactly what everyone would have wanted, and now we've got a lovely little business that sits there existing forever. Sounds great on paper, but to me that was literally like the last thing probably on planet Earth that I wanted. I wanted to get back to 300-400% growth percentage, which we know is possible. There are companies out there that do it. It's just normally they're a Facebook or an Amazon, or something of new. Whereas ours is a little bit more traditional. It's a bit more brick and mortar, and it's a bit more safe. So we needed to change that. So I went down the rabbit hole. How do you grow a company that's ticking all the right boxes? And basically M&A then popped up, mergers and acquisitions. So went all the way down that rabbit hole and still haven't come back out. It's now where I live, Roger, 24/7. Yeah, mate, I'm still there. I'm still at the bottom. I'm waiting for the rope to be thrown in, but I think I've gone too deep. No, I'm actually loving it. This is exactly where I needed to be. All the years of studying business now make sense. I can discuss their P&Ls. I can discuss, it's everything that we know in business. I can go into a business, look at it and say, right, I think your marketing could bring in another 10% revenue. I think that we can increase prices by 10, 15%. So everything that I've studied for years is now going into another business, looking at those opportunities and then saying, wow, I think I can do this, and here's what I expect to be able to do. Would you like to sell me your business? But it goes one step further. In property, you have no choice but to pay your deposit and to tick the right boxes, and it's incredibly strict in terms of what you can do. With mergers and acquisitions, every single deal is different, and your opportunity for negotiation and even just open discussion is completely different. So, for example, the first business that we bought, we've put no money down. It's a full vendor financed deal. So basically they are paying for us to take that business. It does have runoff insurance, and there's some other slight complications with structural engineering companies in general. But the design spec, we pay out over £100,000 easily every year in structural engineering fees. So it made sense to buy that, bolt it into our existing empire. And now we're talking about a merger and another potential acquisition just on that side of the business. So yeah, I've gone all in on that. It's now what I pay for. Probably the majority of my money goes into M&A in some way, shape or form, whether that's AI prompts or ebooks or courses or networking events, you name it, and I'm paying for it.
There you go. It does seem like with that approach, once you do get into the acquisition, once the merger has happened, once you've got that business ready to be integrated, then you can start sharing resources as well, because they're operating as their individual company, but now they can also provide services to the main structure and vice versa.
Roger, I'm going to give you one bigger, man. The thing is with the UK now is everyone of my mentors, everyone of my really good friends were in business in the 80s and early 90s. And they say to me all the time that business back then, the reason they got out was that there was more money to be, not more money to be had, money was just more free flowing. And you had higher margins because things like NI hadn't been increased that much, and taxes over the years have all crept up, right? But when you increase all taxes by 0.5%, you're actually increasing overall tax by 10-15%. So it's a lot harder to make a British pound now than it was back then. So all those people that dipped and they say the wonderful stories of 3-4 holidays a year. They could put their car on the account. They could go out for dinner every other night on the business. Like, that's what it was. So with that information, what are we all doing about it? Well, generally speaking, nothing else changed. So taxation went up and companies operate the same. For me, what I'm looking at is that those smaller boats had smoother waves that they were sailing on. Now, although there is the saying that a smooth wave, smooth sea never made a great sailor. What I'm interested in is getting all of these little boats that now have much rougher waves, and they're challenged every day with the bigger waves. I want to pull all of us together into one big boat, get all them great minds that once upon a time could have 3-4 holidays a year, now need to work harder than ever before. Get them brains into a big boat, pull the resources, share resources, like you say, whether that's prompts, whether that's templates, whether that's the administration. For us, site surveys. Why on earth does an architect, an engineer, and a quantity surveyor all visit the same address? That's insanity to me. So to have one surveyor visit for all 3 companies is, you've just trimmed 15-20% of workload minimum. Some people out there in our trade will be saying it's like 30-40%. Absolutely, it can be that high. I'm being conservative and saying I think we can save 15% of total workload by just pulling these resources together. So when I'm having conversations with other business owners, I'm saying exactly that. You're in a small dinghy at the moment, as am I. I want to pull this together. I want you to sit alongside me in this boat, and I want to sail the rougher seas in a bigger vessel. And it, like the metaphor continues, the bigger boat will go further. It's very limited with the dinghy, and we got to go all in, man. It's the big chapter for me now. I want to make sure that we get lots of good minds around a bigger table, and we go out there and we start taking over.
I would love to close the podcast right there, because that's like a very strong direction, a very strong statement to finish with. But I wanted to go back to what you said about the British pound. Is a lot harder to make a pound today than it used to be, and it resonated because my father-in-law has been in business forever. So has my dad. But my father-in-law is in the UK, and he keeps saying one thing, which is a penny saved is a penny earned. But he actually says something else on top of that as well. And that extra thing is that a pound saved is actually much more valuable than a pound earned. And when you start thinking about it, saving a pound, that's a pound in the bank. Whereas earning an extra pound, you need to start shaving your NIs, your costs, your the work that you have to do to get it out, the tax that you need to pay, etc. So the margin is the margin. But if you increase the margin from the top side by charging more or by going out there and getting more business versus actually managing to be more efficient internally when you're a big business, that makes a massive shift in the way you think for large businesses. I mean, we're a much smaller business than you are right now. So for us, it's all about go out there, chase the work, and build up and increase that income. But at some point, once you get to the point where the income is coming, now you need to see, I've got my bowl filling up, but I've got all these holes in it. I need to start patching to retain more of that so I can push further ahead. And I guess you're now at that stage where you're thinking the acquisitions and the mergers give me so much more leverage over the internal workings and the way we do the work we do. And then you increase your opportunities because your horizon keeps getting bigger every time you make an acquisition. If you go down the engineering route, civil engineering, suddenly those become opportunities now for that business that you didn't have before. And now it's a single group, isn't it?
Oh, mate. And so 2 quick ones. I mean, your one there, that's absolutely true. But another piece of the puzzle that you just nailed is that the father-in-law has nailed as well, is that by saving that pound, you've also not paid the marketing. Marketing is so expensive now. You have to be everywhere, man. I mean, look what you're doing here with the podcast, right? The setup, you've already told me off camera, but you've got 3 different recording setups. Like, what are we talking about, man? This is like, you go back to the 80s and say, I've had to set 3 videos up. I've had to put it across 4 or 5 different marketing platforms. Then I've had to run ad spend against it. They'd be calling you insane. You just go yellow pages. What are you talking about? So, like, you're absolutely spot on there. I'm actually going to go away and think about that deeply, that the pound saved is probably worth twice the amount now. If I have to try to fight for another British pound versus save one, it's a serious consideration. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely taking that one away with me, Roger.
You've got your work for tonight now.
Yeah, for sure. That's my homework. I'm going to go all in on that and just see what we could be looking at if we were to save 3% off of the total expenditure or the fixed costs. But coming back to your point then, or my second point around that, the efficiencies are crazy. So you've got efficiencies when you're doing mergers and acquisitions. That is one chapter. We've covered that. The other side to this is there's opportunities that you have no idea exist until they're there. And I call them unmeasurables in business. There's a hell of a lot of unmeasurables. So we teach it all the time in sales, whether it's or project management, whatever side of our business it is. If you feel that it's going really well, you're not in the room of the receiver, then you don't know how well it's doing. There are conversations being had, potentially the same conversation every time, that you've never heard, and they affect the outcome. So it could be that the color of the paper that you're sending things out on, everyone's picking that paper up at home and going, God, that's cheap, but we wouldn't know. So, and it's not really a split test, because if you send out really expensive paper, you're not going to get a call the next day to say, wow, that paper was an upgrade. There's just unmeasurables. So for me, one big unmeasurable that I had with mergers and acquisitions is we bought a company, and the next thing I know, my solicitor, who does all of my property purchasing paper, my conveyancing solicitor, get on unbelievably well with her, work to do forever. She turned around to me and said, I don't suppose you can help with structural engineering, completely out the blue. Bearing in mind, I work with a different team for that kind of work. So I didn't realize, and when I'm speaking it aloud, people would say, wow, what an idiot, how didn't you realize that? But my conveyancer does get those inquiries of, I've got this crack in the wall, anyone you know that can quickly come around and just give me the report. So the structural engineering company is now getting more leads from my solicitor that had no correlation whatsoever. So the idea of upgrading to multidisciplinary is, in effect, I can sit in almost any room that has anything to do with property, whether it's a sale, a lead, laying the carpet. It makes no difference now. There is absolutely a chance that there is something that pops up and we are needed, from quantity surveying through to the builders, through to the structural engineers, and then back to the architecture, which is where we started. So, and obviously visuals, right? So we do virtual reality. That opened up different opportunities. So, and there's all crossover. I know that some company owners call it like cross-pollination, where you've got the different flowers and they're all cross-pollinating, but that's where we're at now. And I want to really hit this hard now, man. I know that there's a lot more scalable properties and property businesses to be bought as a result of the empire growing. So that's the dream.
I mean, it would be interesting if we were to take a podcast or even just a conversation in terms of the theoretical part, if you will, the design part of the business, because now you're going into a multidisciplinary. So you've gone through what's going on within a business and the things that need to be spot on, the things that, like you said, are unknown. So you can't measure them. They're unmeasurable. And if they are, do you start fixating on the fact that you don't have enough data to make the right decision? Or do you do something that's well enough informed and then move past it unless you learn something else? And how do you tackle those things? Like if you were to put a pyramid of hierarchy on the decisions and processes you need to have in place, what's at the top? What's halfway down? And what should you just ignore? And a lot of people don't, and they get fixated on the things that you just can't control. And from there, you might have like a blueprint for a successful individual organization. And if you do, how does that start fitting into this multidisciplinary you're talking about now? It becomes like a network, a web of information. So it's going to be a very long discussion if we end up having it, and I would love to have it.
Oh, for sure. I tell you what, though, there's actually, so I've had the same issue where you sit there and then you almost become overwhelmed with decisions. Like which one should I do first, second, third? They're all important, but which one do I itemize? A really good hack for that is just at the beginning of every year or right during the Christmas period, I sit down and I do a whole plan for the year, personal goals, professional goals, each company, where they're at in Q1, Q2, Q3. It takes me a few weeks, but it becomes a bit of a copy and paste year on year where we want turnover growth percentages. So it's not too bad. Long story short, within that, I then identify within each business what requires the least amount of time for the maximum potential upside. So this year, I'm focusing on Design Spec Connect because I really do believe that could easily hit a 400% increase, easy. I've already worked very, very hard on it. I had it for a target for Q1, but we're nearly actually done because I've started during Christmas. I was super excited for it. So we've got that as a whole project now. In fact, earlier today, we launched a lot of the first phase of that program. So yeah, man, I really do I really do feel that you can hack it by just identifying what requires the least amount of time for the most amount of upside. And the rest of it then is almost like just saying no to everything. So when people say, you know, can we pick this project up over here? No, I can't, because I've got something that's returning at 400%. If you can't return higher than that, then it's got to sit second, third, fourth, wherever it sits in the hierarchy. And that took me a long time to learn though, man. I used to say yes to everything. I'm in that phase now where I've got to get razor sharp on saying no. But I've got a really good general manager who pushes back on me. So Sam, who's in the company with me, he will kick me out the office if I'm throwing too many things at the team, or I want to pull people away from their desk and say, this is what I really want to implement. So you need good people that understand that it's all for the betterment of growth. And that's where we're at now. It takes a long time though, as you know, Roger.
I'm gonna put a podcast together with Sam and see his take on the story, because I'm sure you'll have a lot to say.
Yeah. I won't want to listen to that one back.
I bet he'll be watching this whenever he gets posted, and he's gonna be just rubbing his forehead and be like,
really weird though, Roger. So I met Sam. Sam, first of all, came through my door as a recruitment chap. I think he was 18 at the time. And I'd literally just started the business. He helped me get my first apprentice. And I said to him in that first ever time I met him, I said, one day we'll work together, but I don't know when. And it took 5 or 6 years after that before I could actually put it together to pull him over to us. And by that point, we were big enough to bring him on board. So there you go. Small side note, but me and Sam have technically been working together since day one in some way, shape or form.
There you go. So he knows from the ground up what he needs to be doing.
Exactly. Amazing. Exactly.
Okay, so right before we overrun too much, we're already on the top end, but nothing wrong with that, especially if there's a lot of value going in. Is there anything you'd like to close off with? I mean, there is definitely the things that you need, especially with this merger and acquisition now. You are looking for businesses, so I'll give you the chance to give us a 30-second. This is exactly what we're looking for. If you're listening and that's you, just reach out. But also in terms of all this wisdom that you've been bringing out, things that you had to figure out. You said that now you're trying to be razor sharp, but actually the fact that you started from the €1 an hour and had to work for free essentially, and had to do so many different things without focus, gave you this perspective that you have today, where you can go back and cut down on the things that will not perform, will not help, and prioritize. What is your distillation? If you were to distill to a simple few words, the core of what you want to push out as the final thing for this podcast, what would it be?
Yeah, great way to phrase it. For me, absolutely no doubt about it, it's for business owners to start pulling together. I think we can all get quite greedy, and I think holding 100% sounds great, and to say I'm the business owner and I'm the founder and these buzzwords that are quite literally just ego. There's a great book, Ego is the Enemy, and I recommend every business owner read it, by Ryan Holiday. And that would be my final piece. I want to pull good business people together into one room to build bigger and better brands and businesses in a time where I don't feel as though you win as comfortably on your own. So that's what I really want. And also from a selfish perspective, there's great stories out there about, say, Airbnb, where the average age of the directors, I think, was 24. And they pulled in some wiser minds around them, and it really excelled the business. I want to do that next. So I want to pull like-minded, but a varied age with different experiences, different stories, different passions, and put them into one room and just see what that table of people could really achieve. It does bother me a little bit that there are some business owners that I'm even speaking to now that have stayed, not solopreneurs, they're still entrepreneurs, but they've stayed on their own. I want to fill a room with these great minds and really challenge the industry. We can absolutely shake this up and create the ultimate homeowner experience. I just need more great people, as always.
Always in discovery mode. So in terms of who you're looking for the acquisitions, for the mergers, for even this think tank, this catalyst room that you're envisioning, who are the ideal candidates? Who should be reaching out and saying, let's have a chat, let's see what we can do?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm super active on LinkedIn. So anyone that is listening to this, find me, James Collinson, on LinkedIn. The company, again, Design Spec. Normally we'll pull that up if you can't find me on there. And if you're in any professional property service business, I would love to have a chat. Now, primarily, we're looking at structural engineers, architecture companies, quantity surveyors. We will look at construction companies as well. So if there is anyone out there that's built a nice little business and wants to take that to the next level with ideally what we would bring is the leads, then absolutely, let's sit down, let's talk, let's see what we can do there. We're based in the Southeast and London, but we have major plans to expand beyond that. So I wouldn't limit geographical location. We've looked at companies over in Bristol. We've looked at companies in Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle. I actually buy a lot of my properties in Newcastle, so I do travel up there. There's no real limit. I just want business owners, especially in property, to reach out and let's see what we can put together.
Amazing. Are you currently looking for the UK specifically, or do you have any plans for possibly an expansion further?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I'm due to fly out to the Philippines to see if we can put together a remote arm to our business for some of the background work that goes on at Design Spec out there. And there's also a company that we're in talks with at the moment that are based in Valencia in Spain, and they manage and distribute loads of UK drawings across the country. So they only work with the UK regulations, but they're based in Spain. So absolutely, we would entertain outside of the UK, but it's a bit more niche. If you've got a bricks and mortar business and you're in the UK, you automatically tick the box. If you are a business outside of the UK, we'll absolutely still have to chat, because if nothing else, I'm sure we can trade memories.
Amazing. Thank you very much, James. It's been very eye-opening, and I'm sure we'll put another podcast together at some point. I'll give you 6 to 12 months to continue with this process, and then I'll come back in to see how you're doing.
You heard that, folks. You heard that. That was a promise. He's just promised to have me back on. I didn't get booted
put me
off
on the spot. Yeah, put me on the spot. Okay. Well, next time we'll do it in live. We'll actually get a studio and sit down with a proper brew and have a proper discussion, because that gives it extra value, I think. And there you go. That. Thank you very much, James, for your time today, and we'll catch you on the next one in 6 to 12 months.
Thanks, Roger. Really appreciate it.